Okay, good morning, guys. This is Simon with Trading Perform Coaching. It's 8:04 a.m. on Tuesday morning. Before we get started, we have Econ coming up. We have 9 a.m. U.S. Consumer Confidence Number. That's a big number. Okay, if you're trading within 2 or 3 minutes of that number, just remember that's all on you, right? The algo is not designed to beat the news. It just isn't, right? The market moves faster during those time frames, and yeah, you just got to just know. I would give it a couple minutes either way. You don't have to be right on the spot and still be able to make money. So Xavier, who I don't see in the room this morning, sent me a question. I posted the question. I'll read it. He sent it to me on my personal instead of to the room, but that's all right. I just transferred it over. And it's a great question. So we're going to cover it. So here it goes. And then we'll look at it live. So what he wrote was, he goes, I have a question. You said it is much better to wait for the price goes to unfair price zone and play a rejection. On the video, the price goes to this zone. If we wait for the break of the greatest buy delta with the triangle, it's a losing trade. Is there something I didn't see? So if you look what he's doing here, he actually had the biggest delta right here. He was right on spot. Okay. So there's two things to remember, right? It's odds. We're just trading odds all day long. We're trading odds, right? So this, first of all, longs over shorts in all conditions. Longs over shorts in all conditions. Secondly, let's say this is a 70% win rate, which is very high, right? Well, if it's 70%, you take 1,000 trades, right? That means 300 trades distributed randomly are going to be losers, and you're still going to end up with a 70% win rate, right? That concept is very important to remember. All you're doing by moving into this unfair pricing, and I believe this is yesterday, 626. Okay, so secondly, I don't know what time zone he is in, 846. 8:46 a.m. I'm going to go to yesterday's chart because I haven't changed it yet. That's right when we entered unfair pricing. So let's go look. Okay. Secondly, trades in the first 30 minutes of the day. So go through the rules, right? 30 trades in the first 30 minutes of the day have a higher failure rate than the trades after 9 a.m. Secondly, if you just follow your process, right? So even without all this, erase this, right? If you look at the triangles, stop, you're still in open drive higher and prior to 9 a.m. Win, win, win. All of them in unfair pricing, right? So if you look at that win rate, first of all, if you take my suggestion and don't trade till after 9 o'clock, you had one stop and 1, 2, 3 winners, right? So what you don't want to do is result when you look at when you're looking at your trades, right? And you don't want to have all one trade and go, see, look, I did this, that it doesn't work. You need to size so that you can take all these trades if you're going to short, right? Additionally, he's correct. This trade had your biggest delta up and a triangle down. If I was looking to short at 846, I would have done that. But if you go to your 5-minute chart or even your 15-minute chart, you would have seen this was an open drive higher within range, meaning it was a very strong open. You can see we just opened. We had no sellers, and I said that in the room. I was like, there's no sellers, right? So I'm not gonna short when the market's just driving straight up, and I'm certainly not going to entertain that. This pattern, if you go back and look over the last couple of days in the first 30 minutes, has been very common where it opens and it just drives up straight for half an hour, right? Then if you come over here, you will notice that if you waited for it to do an inverse supernova, right? See how we close underneath? So this is the high. This is the apex that's pointing to the downside. This is the close underneath. We're now in inverse supernova. I don't talk about it a lot because I don't want to encourage the shorts, right? And then if you look at it from that perspective, here's your, I'm going to go with this being your biggest delta. Delta and triangle down are parallel, rolls to the downside, and then as you see again, it pushes up. This is very unique here because you ended up with only one bar that you had to beat. It was one bar up, then triangle down. This is an A+ trade. You end up completely underneath there. You're in unfair pricing, and down it rolls. So Xavier's new in the room. That's why I highlighted his question. His question's totally valid. Like there's nothing wrong with what he's asking. It's totally valid point. But again, what I'm going to go to is you're taking him in series. Secondly, I suggest you focus on the long side of the trade and not the short side of the trade. And there's, I haven't covered this in a while, so I'll go over it. All the order flow from an institutional standpoint in the markets is to the long side in NQ, ES, and RTY. There's almost no dedicated professional short funds, right? All the hedge funds, most of the hedge funds, almost all the pension funds, and all those IRAs and 401ks are all flowing positive cash flow to the long side. Okay, so short side is the harder side of the trade. And then there's, if you're going to short, there's things you can do to help yourself, right? So first of all, stay on process. One stop, two stops, win, win, and big win. Stay on process. Number one, size that you can, so you can take multiple trades. Next, if you stayed on process and you also go through the course of the day, as I said, trading in fair pricing is more difficult, but you can still follow process through on it, right? Here's your triangle up. This is your biggest delta. You had a divergence on this delta. I don't know why it's not marking it off. It doesn't matter. It's positive. You get your triangle up. Even if you look at it from this standpoint, these are almost equal. You clear your triangle down with your triangle up. You lift. Backside test into unfair pricing. Here's your biggest delta. Again, the triangle and the biggest delta are in the same plane. That's a valid short against there. And then when you come over here, so this is getting into 10 o'clock. I think I took a stop in here. This is the danger of trading within unfair pricing. This is the biggest delta down. This is a clear triangle up. This is a stop, right? But then if you come right over here, again, you're seeing these divergences. If you can get a negative delta with a positive bar followed by a triangle up, it's usually a really great trade. High odds, 70, 80 percentile, right? So you can see this is the biggest delta over here. Again, the triangle. The triangle here is in the same plane. It retraces, it does not stop, and it pushes, right? And then you come down here. This is an apex trap. This is the biggest delta right here. This is the triangle up. It's an unfair pricing. It lifts. Now we're underneath unfair pricing, and you can see through the rest. This is New York lunch. I would not trade New York lunch, just to be clear. And you can see it actually reversed coming out of New York lunch, but after a lot of chop, right? Like it was just the whole afternoon was just a chop fest. I'm not going to screw around with that. When I see that, I don't want to trade a market where there's no rotation and no size. Again, that's why I encourage all to focus to prior to 11 a.m. And then you can see finally here at the end of the day, we got the biggest delta up, triangle down, underneath, didn't stop out, and it rolled to the downside into the close. That was actually a nice trade. If you had the confidence to shorten to the close, this overall is a low odds bet. If you look at 100 setups like this, majority of the time they'll push back towards the mid as opposed to closing to the low. But again, that's your call as a trader, right? I want to spend my energy looking for longs for the most part and looking for where the most masterful setups are from those longs. Even within here, if you simply waited for us to go supernova, we're supernova over here. This is an apex trap. This is the biggest delta down within the context of an apex trap. This is your triangle up. Your triangle up, I don't know where that bar closes, so let's go look. Closes within the plane of the biggest delta down. That is your triangle up. Your triangle up does not stop. I don't think. Let me measure to make sure. Double bottom doesn't stop, and it pushes and pays you. I would have run out of patience at that point looking for the long, personally. That's it. Does that make sense to everybody? His question was totally valid. It was just a stop, right? You don't want to, and if you want a good book on this, it's by Annie Duke, which is Thinking in Bets. Okay. Even if you have a 90% win rate and you have 1,000 wins, 1,000 trades, you're going to have 100 randomly distributed losses. That means theoretically you could have a winning 90% winning trade and have 100 trades in a row lose for you and still have a massive win rate, right? I mean, that's just as weird as 900 in a row winners, right? But when you take a trade, it goes to Xavier's mindset, and he has to fix this if he wants to be a successful trader. What you are buying every time you take a trade is you are buying a loss. Let me explain that, okay? Everyone knows when you go buy a car, with the exception of 2 years ago, right? If you go buy a car, I'm going to give you a great example because I'm looking for one. I'm looking for a Cadillac Escalade, about a 2019, 2020. Okay. My wife wants a Cadillac Escalade. I'm going to find her Cadillac Escalade. Okay. If you go and buy a 2023 Cadillac Escalade right now, it's going to run you $100,000 to $140,000, depending on what you buy. Okay. But if you go buy the model year 2 years ago, which was also selling for $100,000, right? I can buy that with 30 or 40,000 miles on it for anywhere from $45,000 to $60,000, depending on how it's equipped. Okay, almost half price of what it was 3 years ago, right? It's so. What am I buying when I buy a car? Well, there's a lot of things you can buy, but number one thing I'm buying is a depreciating asset, right? And you know that when you buy it, the car will be worth less. You just need one or you want one of the two, right? A need or a want. But either way, it doesn't matter which end of the spectrum you're on, the asset you're buying, like if I buy that truck for $50,000, I do not expect after I put another 40,000 miles on that truck in a couple of years for that truck to still be worth 50,000. My guess is it'll be worth $25,000, right? I'm going to spend 25,000 driving that truck for 5 years. $5,000 a year is what that truck is going to cost me to own, right? Okay, when I'm buying this trade, right, Xavier did everything right back over here. When you come back up here, in terms of his thinking, it was an unfair pricing. That's true. It had a triangle down. That's true. It beat the biggest delta up. That's true. Even if that had a 95% win rate, right? He just found that 5% of the time it didn't work, right? Now, what do you have to do to put yourself? It's a very important lesson. He bought a stop, right? He just said one to unfair pricing, triangle down. I don't care that it's in the first half hour of trade. I'm going to short it. I don't care that shorting is the harder side. He looked at all those factors and said, I'm going to short. Okay, super. Well, he should have, if that was his strategy, he should have shorted here. He should have shorted here, should have shorted here, and he should have shorted here. Now, if he said, Simon, I need more than just going to unfair pricing because shorts are hard, right? So the first thing you also notice is, see how there's no counter rotation? Why would you expect the market to go down here at all? It can't even test this prior swing, right? There's no sellers. It's not a criticism of him. It's an evaluation of the trade. So if you look over here, I still don't have that information here. We don't have the ability to come back. Now, when I look here, I go, oh, look, there's the biggest down rotation of the morning. That also closed me below my apex. Maybe now I'm short, right? Now I get my biggest delta, I get my triangle down, and everything starts to work to the downside. Now, you could argue the same thing right over here, which is why I didn't go long, right? Which is why I said it just stopped and reversed back up, right? I just said just stopped and reversed back up. Now when I'm over here, I don't have any rotations either. I don't know that it's going to keep going down. I didn't know what's going on over here, right? Just went straight through here and straight back up, which is the problem with fair pricing. Now, when I get over here, right? When I get over here, oh, the other part is he had no setup besides the high delta. Remember, the high delta comes in and it helps us determine which of our regular setups will actually set us up, will actually help us trade better, right? So if you look through here, there's only one trade that meets our definition of a regular setup, and that's this apex trap right in here. And it hit all the criteria. You had the biggest delta down. It was a super trap off a process where we already went supernova. Here's the triangle up, and it looks like you got 10 or 15 points. Not much, because the market went into trend day down, but you at least got your scale off, and that was on process, right? If you come a little bit lower, this is not a trade, right? If you come, and we're not in supernova. If you come over here, this is a regular apex trap. It's not a super trap. Here's the biggest delta down over here. And you could even get into the same plane. I would not take that. Right now, had this trade gone up like this, I would have said the same thing, because I at least want to be parallel, right? I at least want to be parallel so I don't get crushed. And it's during New York lunch, and everyone who's been in the room for any period of time knows I hate trading during New York lunch. Most traders lose money during New York lunch. Don't trade during that period, okay? Then when you come over here, right, now we go into supernova right over here. We're now in supernova, right? What do I need next? An apex trap. This is an apex trap. This is an apex trap. Okay, so what do I need to know that my apex trap can lift? I need a triangle up. Would I like that triangle up to be in the same plane or above my biggest delta down? There's my biggest delta down. If you look, it kind of went green, red, green, red, green, red. So I can really use any of these. It doesn't matter how you measure it. That triangle up was above my biggest delta down. It retraces, does a double bottom to the tick. You need your stop underneath. I would suggest 1 point underneath this bar, and it pushes you out to your profit. This was the hard way because we were just chopping. I would have lost interest in this. There's no way I would have gotten that. Like, I just can't sit there and monitor it for an hour and 15 minutes until it finally sets up, right? And then we finally roll down, and up here, if you wanted to short again, you just had to know that it wasn't going to lift. Like, I would have thought we could come and backside test this. It was just very weak, and the sellers took it into the end of the day. Does anyone have any questions about that? Does that make sense? You're not buying one trade and going, oh, this is a 100% thing. You have to go, this is one trade of multiple trades. I have X amount of odds that this trade may or may not work. I'm in a location that I do or do not want, and I'm buying the stop. Right? Because I think I have the setup. For me, I would want a little bit more, but I would certainly make sure if I went through in this process that the triangle was the last piece in my understanding of what else I'm looking for. So I'll go back to that after the open. I want to go through and set up the charts for the day really quick. So let's go and see where our profiles are. There's NQ. We'll drag her over and reset. So we have a very large fair pricing, excuse me. So it looks like this. This just gets dragged down here. And now I got to go look to the left. My point of controls get dragged down here. And we're opening right at the point of control. Again, the market in the first half hour has been driving one direction. Until I see that behavior stop, like actually witness it, I wouldn't want to stand in the way of it right out of the gate. Right? I just would not. Prior day's low. This goes away. This goes away. I would mark this off as a low volume node, but it's inside, so it's a maybe. It's not as strong as if it was on the end there. I would have that marked off. This is retail settle price. I would have that marked off. and it's the end cap anomaly. So an under over would push us back through. We took care of that Thursday low, which I said needed to be taken care of. By the way, you may want to still mark that off because that's the bottom of balance right up there. Just mark it as a note, as a interesting place. That's all it is. Okay. And then unfair pricing up here. So now I want to know what's back to the left. So I can look back to the left, and what I see is a couple of things. I have a naked volume point of control. That is often used as a point of inflection. That can become a target location for where I could get a possible trade, because you'll notice if you look at these, I don't have unfair pricing till all the way down here. It's a long drop, right? Doesn't mean we'll get it, but we could, right? So I'm going to mark off, I need additional help with potentially understanding why we're rotating in an area. So those would be my levels, and that would get me down about 250 points. And then below that, I've got this down here. Oops. And then within that context, I'd want to note that this is single print. So I'm going to differentiate because this is more valuable than this. Okay, so that takes me down about 400 points. And if we do more than that, I'll go look. So this gives me some key areas of interest. I can print that chart out. And then I have this up here. So then I can go, how do I do this? Shift S. Uh, 67. That's not good. Okay. Oh, got it. There you go. And then slide this over here. And then I'm going to do ES really quick. Okay, so let's clean this up. Low. Unfair pricing. Unfair pricing. Point of control. Most difficult place to trade. volume point of control. Additional unfair pricing and single prints above. And then we look underneath. Okay, so underneath I can see that this is my first unfair pricing, followed by more unfair pricing, followed by naked volume points of control here, here, and that's my picture for today. Just keeping it simple, right? So, so the first thing I want to see today is, can I get above that 44.23? If so, I have a naked volume point of control right above. And I'll leave it at that, 44.34. Okay, so I will share this picture. And I can see that I don't have very much unfair pricing above at all. It could travel through that area really easily. There you go. So I'm going to slide this over. And I'm looking for the same thing today as I did yesterday. A, stay out of trouble in the first half hour. I know I have big econ at the top of the hour. B, I'm not going to stand in the way. I prefer longs over shorts, right? Markets due for a pullback. Longs are still generally easier than shorts in almost all markets, except for the most brutal of down markets, right? Again, the people I have that have the most success focus on longs pretty much exclusively. Okay, you can do whatever makes you happy, right? But I'm telling you, the guys that have the most success, wait for the longs. Okay, there's plenty of people in here who've had that experience, and yeah, that would be my suggestion. Uh, why is that highlighted? That doesn't make any sense. Let's see. That's not unfair pricing. What is that? What is that? Why do you show up? You could not make it to the. You would think that the market would want to clean up the single prints, and we couldn't make it there. Meaning that you'd think the market would want to come up here and clean up these single prints right up here, and it just hasn't been able to do it yet. Yet is the key word on that, right? So that would be my thought. Would be, oh, they're going to want to come and clean. They're going to want to come and clean that up again. Trading at the prior day's point of control is a very difficult place to trade. It's one of those things you just have to surrender and go, well, I think it's going there, but I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose money in the process of doing that, right? Of I don't want to lose money in the process of trying to make that trade work, right? So you just have to decide, hey, what am I going to do, right? That would be my suggestion. Again, I think we're going up here. That'd be my guess. Did that help this morning, guys? Explaining Xavier's question. The only thing he did wrong there was not taking and I don't know that he didn't take the subsequent trades, but not taking the subsequent trades. Oh, whoa. Is my screen showing, guys? It is. Okay, Randy. Thank you. And there it goes. That made the most sense to go up there and take and re-auction those single prints right up there. Something's wrong. No, I'm not talking. Yes, pushing to take up that Globex high. There's a little bit more work to do. Or at least London high. All good. Blowing cold air again, which is great. Yeah, especially this business. This is just a killer app for uncertainty. And in my mind, I think about look for the biggest delta, look for the triangles, right? That's what I think in my mind, so I don't have to guess what this may or may not do, right? Back to the point of control. It's so illiquid in NQ, it's not even funny. Like you should see the dome, how fast it moves. There's no one trading it. Again, there's no one there. And by the way, I still see Rhythmic Dome is sucking horribly. I would suggest you use another dome to manage if you're trading those Apex accounts to gauge where the heck the market actually is, because this is pretty bad. And these moves in NQ, if you don't understand this, these are illiquid moves. If you do not understand that concept, you will get run over. If you can't look at the dome and see, oh, it's jumping 10, or oh, it's doing X, or it's doing Y, or it's doing Z, you're going to have a horrible time trading if you can't look at it until in the first half hour. So I'm going to say it again, the first 30 minutes, hardest time of day to trade, period. And I mean, it is jumping so fast, I can't see it sometimes on the jump. And this is on my good dome. Like this dome's actually literally is very, very good. And it is just flying through there in both directions. And yes, with the hard move down. You can, but Matt, they won't let you do it at the same time, right? So how are you hooking up the? You have to open two separate windows, right? Which is what I'm doing, which I'm in the process of doing. My understanding is you have to open up two, one attached to Denali in a bit. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Good, good, good. Again, I'd be cautious on the illiquidity of this thing. It is very fast moving, very. Super fast rotations, guys, on NQ. Super fast. These are 50-point rotations in minutes. So just be aware you can lose a lot of money very, very quickly in this. And I mean a lot of money very quickly. It's not a beginner's market. Yep. Which pharmacy is your medication at? Question mark. The neighborhood. Look at the spread on NQ. It's gone 1 full point wide. They're just inebriated with it. 15 seconds till Lunchrama. Can we get a 100-point move? No liquidity. Oh, it's a 10-point spread. You took care of the single prints up there. See what they do now. Guys, I have to run to the pharmacy to get my wife some medication. She's not feeling well. Give me a couple minutes. I'll be right back. It's right up the street. So I leave you all in good hands. You're in fair pricing, most importantly. You know you're in fair pricing. Be nice to yourself. Either lower your size or trade gently. But don't be shocked. NQ, I'm telling you as loud as I can. NQ has a liquidity issue at the very second. Okay? It has a liquidity issue. Let it work its liquidity issue out or trade smaller. One of the two. That'd be my strongest suggestion I can make. Talk to y'all in just a couple minutes. Make sure I'm not made a mistake. And you hit cancel all and flatten just to make sure you don't have anything. I'll be right back. prior days point of control. So now they'll be they're going to raise. And we're crisscrossing the point of control. I'm telling you, we're in this blue area. They're just going to keep sweeping up and down, with no conclusion to it. And fast. That's the other part of it. And fast. Told you. There's no mercy on that. Look at NQ and ES have no relationship to each other right now. It's just totally illiquid. They're trying to figure out what they want to do with it. Look at that. This is what you call trading in an undefended area. It's exactly what it is. Everything is inside its point of control. I don't know what else to say. Not down, not up, inside its point of control. We're not going up, we're not going down, we're on an inside day in fair pricing. I don't know how you trade that appropriately. So I would do nothing. I know it's going up and down fast, but you better be lickety split on your domes if you don't want to get run over, because this thing is a run over machine right now. It's dropping 2030 and going up 2030 in a minute. Okay, with no direction. ES is on the verge of taking out its high. Can't quite do it, but it's trying. I mean, just look at it. It's just one bar down, one bar up, or 20 in a row. Panic, one of the two. You have to wait till they clear it out. I'll let them work it out. I don't like trading when the market's doing exactly this, which is inside an inside day, inside fair value, and then inside fair value of the inside day, right? There, no one's defending. That's why it's sliding through all this. It's moving, right? How are you going to gauge it so you know whether to stick it, take it for a tick, or push it for 20 or 30 points, or ES for 4 or 5 points? I can't tell. So if you can, you're definitely a better trader than I am, and I'm all right with that. And I don't even understand why it's doing this on top of that. Like, we can't get to either end of an important area. We did in ES, we got to unfair value. So we're just sweeping the fair value range, I guess. Can't tell which way it's circling. Guys, I think I'm going to go for a walk and come back after London starts, because that half hour into London, because this is untradeable to me. I'll stick around and see if it moves, but I don't dare pull the trigger on anything in this. And it's horrible. Look at it. We're just crisscrossing at the point of control. ES is about to take out its highs for the session. NQ is a long way from taking out its highs. They're both positive, but they're both inside the inside day. I can't tell you what the market wants to do. Like, I can't see it with any certainty and go, oh, we get one bar down, one bar up, one bar down, one bar up. To me, just wrote in my journal, this is such a warning sign for me, because I get over emotional about it, that I'll just wait till I see a better picture develop. See that? Like, is it good or is it bad? I don't know. Are we going up or are we going down? I can't tell that either. All I see is that we're just want to take out that high, I think. I think.